Hello, my name is Michele Sayre, and welcome to Writing Lessons. Today's lesson will be using deep POV to avoid info dumping with setting. Info dumping is when a writer dumps a lot of information on the page, which in turn can grind a story to a halt. This presentation will be about using deep POV to avoid info dumping when it comes to the settings in your story. It's been said that setting is a character in a story, though I don't agree with that statement. Setting is where the story takes place, and it's important, but it's not a driver of the story itself. But don't treat your setting just like a backdrop and describe it as such. Instead, show how the key details of the setting affect your characters and the action of your story. Writers do a lot of research and work to create the world in which their story is set, but the reader does not need to know all these details. They only need to know what's important to the story itself. And with setting, you want to ask, why does the POV character notice and think about certain details in a scene setting? To show how you can avoid info dumping with your story setting, I'll use an example from a work in progress of mine, my novel, Not Enough Time. In the following passage, which is the very beginning of the book itself, I'll show you how the setting affects my POV character Jake, and also how it affects the plot of the story. Jake pulled up to the clearing at the edge of the oil field that had been brutally hacked out of the jungle, but kept the truck running, ready to peel out at the first sign of trouble. But to him, it wasn't just the jungle itself that was the enemy here. It was the regular attacks by drug gangs and rebel groups looking to make a fast buck through kidnapping, extortion, or robbery that left dead bodies behind. In the rearview mirror, he saw the two oil company executives he and Patrick had been guarding tapping away on their phones. The two men were highly lucrative targets who had done what they were told, though Jake knew they were resentful of that and had given him and Patrick the cold shoulder the whole time they'd been here. But he wasn't here to make friends, just to get these two guys out of here in one piece. "Hey man," his partner Patrick said, "ease up a little. Our time's almost up." Jake nodded once to that, knowing the sharp claws of his nerves weren't going to let him go until they were out of this godforsaken hellhole. Patrick told him he'd been looking for threats where there weren't any, but Jake knew the threats were always there, especially the ones you couldn't see. The first thing I wanted to do with the scene was convey the details of the setting itself, an oil field that had been hacked out of a jungle in northeastern Colombia. Then I wanted to show why this place felt like a threat to Jake by stating how the area was regularly attacked by drug gangs and rebel groups. In the second paragraph, I wanted to show why Jake and Patrick were there and how it related to the first paragraph, and that was guarding two oil company executives who were highly lucrative targets for the above-mentioned attackers. And then with the line of dialogue in the last paragraph, I wanted to bring forth the conflict that will drive the rest of the scene, the unseen threat that Jake can sense. With an interior setting, a writer can get just as bogged down in detail as they can with a big outdoor setting. So using an excerpt from another story of mine, a short story called A Hot Summer Night, let me show you how the details of the setting help tell the story using my POV character Sarah. Sarah wandered leisurely around her small London flat, not bothered by the lack of air conditioning as she'd grown up in hot and humid Texas summers. But tonight, she felt the heat and humidity were caressing her skin like a lover. She heard a soft knock at the door. Her bare feet were silent against the wood floor as she walked over and opened the door to the man she'd been waiting for all evening. His blue and white striped shirt was unbuttoned halfway down his chest. His short dark hair was spiked and wavy with a bit of sweat, and there was more than a hint of a 5 o'clock shadow on his jaw. But it was his slow and sexy smile that had her nipples hardening under her white silk nightgown. "Hi." Ben's voice was low and seductive, even with its proper English accent. "Would you like to come in?" she asked with a seductive smile in return. The dimple in his left cheek deepened as he nodded. She stepped aside, and he shrugged off his backpack as she closed the door behind them. Then he reached out and touched her nightgown right where it came between her breasts. In the beginning, I used the phrase small London flat to show where the story is set and where the scene itself takes place. Then I added in a couple of key details, a hot summer night and a lack of air conditioning to show how the setting had affected Sayre, caressing her skin like a lover, and to explain why she noticed what she did with Ben when she first saw him. Then, when he smiled at her, he incited a sexual response, her nipples hardening under her nightgown. This in turn would lead to the heart of the story itself, a heated night of passion that becomes something more. A note here, make the details of your setting count towards telling the story itself. Some key points here. Use key details that your POV character notices and show why those details are important to your POV character. Make sure there are details that move your story along in terms of plot and character development. And ask the question why to help you find the details needed for your POV character to convey. DPOV is about letting your characters tell a story and not about putting every little detail on the page because you want to show off your research and world building skills. Remember, you have a story to tell, and those details, such as settings, are just a part of the story. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website for a free PDF download of this presentation. Have a good day.